Hey y'all. Happy Tuesday. Happy Spoken Word Tuesday. I hope you guys days come along fine. Anyway, you guys know on Tuesdays I like to bring the word. And earlier I read my short from the sealed portion, chapter 20, verse 2. One of the final testaments of Christ reads as follows. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. And the light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. But if thine eye be evil, thy whole body shall be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in thee be darkness, how great is that darkness? You guys, for wherever one heart lies, there will your treasure be also. One must understand that if one think dark, then their life will consist of darkness. But if one think light, then their lives will consist of brightness. The question is, how deep or dark is how deep is one darkness or light? Okay? Ask yourself that question, because if it's dark, then you're going to think dark. You're going to do dark. You're going to act dark, right? But if it's light, then you're going to be of light, right? You're going to be an example of light. You're going to show light. You see? It's like black and white. Anyway, you guys, like I said, I'm reading from chapter 20 of the sealed portion. You guys know I like to read the header, right? And the header reads as follows. Adam continues to explain the gospel and the commandments of Jesus Christ. He explains the evil of money and worldly possessions and gives the commandments pertaining to them. He expounds on and explains the evils of the family unit. Okay? All right, so that's the header of this chapter. And of course, let me see. I don't know. Yeah, so this chapter goes all the way up to the hundreds. So it's probably going to take me about 4 or 5 weeks to finish this chapter, okay? Anyway, starting with verse 1. Verse 1 reads as follows. And the Lord continued his commandments unto us, saying, lay not up for yourselves treasure on earth, where moth and rust do corrupt, and thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor dust, neither moth nor rust do it corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. All right, you guys. So it's saying, ooh, my throat dry. I need a little water. Anyway, the Father is saying, right, these is part of his commandments, right? Not to lay for yourselves, treasures on earth, right? Where it rusts and everything, right? And where it moth and where thieves come and get it, where they break in, where it causes corruption, right? So you got to be careful what type of treasures you lay up on earth. You just can't be laying up treasures that's going to invite people into your life, that's going to invite people of envy and jealousy in your life, right? So you got to be careful on what type of treasures you lay up in earth, right? So the Father said, right? So lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust do corrupt. When you got to worry about the thieves breaking in or it's mothing and corrupting, right? You got to lay those kind of treasures up, right? The worldly treasures causes corruption, right? It causes thieves to break in, right? And it causes rust and moth over time. But there are gifts also, right, that we can lay up for treasures, right, that does not cause moth and rust or corruption. It don't cause thieves to break in, right, because it's not even going to attract them. Verse 2, which is my short. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. And the light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body should be full of light. But if thine eye be evil, thy whole body should be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in thee be darkness, how great is that darkness? So again, you guys, this is my short, and like I said, for wherever one heart lies, there will your treasure be also. One must understand that if one think dark, then their life will consist of darkness. On the other hand, if one think light, then their life will consist of brightness, right? The question is, how deep or is one's light or darkness, right? That will determine, okay? So again, for wherever your heart is, there will your treasure be also. Verse 3, no man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold on to the one and despise the other. Ye cannot serve God and mammon. So if you thinking that you got money in one hand and God in the other, you just delusional as everybody else that's walking around here don't even believe in God. Okay, y'all all working in the same boat. You're gonna die right on or go to hell with the same false priests, the sheep in clothing, just like the evil do. They all go they all go to the same place under the same umbrella. Okay. So again, if you thinking you got gold and silver in this hand and God in this hand, that's lukewarm. And the lukewarm, the fire that spits out. Again, no one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold on to the one and despise the other. Ye cannot serve God and mammon, right? Ye cannot serve God and money, right? Ye cannot serve God and idols, right? Ye cannot serve God and power. So they don't mix. It's either one or the other, but it cannot be in between. It can't be lukewarm, because remember, the lukewarm, the Father spit out. All right, verse 4. And when we received these commandments from the Lord, we did not understand the meaning of them, for we had no desire for any of the treasures of the earth. Yeah, we did not know what we should even consider as treasures of the earth. Therefore, we could not lay for ourselves those things that we did not understand. Nevertheless, we covenanted to obey this commandment without fully understanding it at the time it was given to us. And this we did because of the faith in the word of our Lord. So you telling him, like, okay, when we receive these commandments, right? They didn't even know what was going on. They didn't even understand them, right? They had to learn, right? Now they said because they didn't even have any desire of any of the treasures of the earth, because they didn't understand. They wouldn't even know what treasures would be considered on earth, okay? Therefore, they couldn't lay up things, right? On earth, the things they didn't understand. But nevertheless, they still covenanted to obey the Father without fully understanding it at the time it was given to them, right? And the reason why they did this is because they had great faith in the word of the Lord. See when the Father say, blessed is he, who still have faith and don't see, right? Opposed to those who see you and hate. All right, verse 5. And we remembered the words of Satan when he was cast out of the kingdom of the Father, in which he said that he would take the treasures of the earth, and with gold and silver he will buy up great armies of men, and that he will buy up the means of justice and laws, that the children of men will be subjected to through his governments and his religions, and that he will reign with blood and horror upon the earth. What you see is going on now, right? Do we not see that, Satan has been casted out of the kingdom of the Father? We do know that, right? And he have already, taken up the treasures of the earth, right? He got all the gold and the silver, the treasures of the earth, right? Use that gold and silver to buy up great armies of the men, right? Then, those same armies, that they bought the silver and the gold would be the means, right, to buy the means of the justice and laws, right, so that the children and men would be subjected to the government, right, through the government and through the government religions, right, and that they will reign with blood and horror upon the earth. Wars, rumors and wars, all the wars that's going on, all the people that the government use for the wars, right? They got the bag with oil, whatever the case may be. So they continue their power, right? Using blood and horror upon the earth. And who is subject to it? Hey, we all got to follow what the government say. Verse 6. And when the Lord gave unto us the holy endowment as an instrument to give to our children the opportunity to know the plan of salvation that he provided for us, we were commanded to demonstrate the great enticement that the treasures of the earth would have upon the souls of the children of God. But even then, we did not fully understand that which was commanded of us. So you see, they didn't understand the beginning. They had to learn, like we all got to learn, right? So even though, the Lord gave them the holy endowment as an instrument to give our children, to give their children the opportunity to know the plan of the salvation of the Father that the Father had provided for us, right? They was commanded, right, to demonstrate the enticement of the treasures of the earth, right, that would have been upon the souls of the God, right? But even then, during that time, they did not fully understand, that it was commanded of them. Verse 7. And it was my hope that through my daily administrations among you, and also by the preaching of those who have been given the authority to teach you in the church that the Lord has suffered to be established among us, that these things might not come to pass among you. In other words, that we might not see the necessities of these commandments. But it was our eldest son, Benelli, who first introduced gold and silver among us and deceived his other brothers and sisters and taught them that these things were precious things of the earth. And as ye have these many years developed a system of money, which is based on these things, which ye believe are precious, these commandments have become necessary and vital to our salvation and happiness. So when we talk about Benelli, in this instance, Benelli he's talking about is the devil. Remember when the Father said the devil's walking to and fro? So he's talking about Benelli, right? Benelli who seduced Eve, who seduced Cain, walking back and forth. So the name he using for the devil right now, walking to and fro from the earth, trying to figure out who he can deceive and manipulate, he using Benelli. But Benelli is the devil, okay? And now he's saying, but Benelli, who is the eldest son, remember, basically Lucifer, the eldest son who introduced the gold and the silver, right? Because Lucifer, the Satan, he went to buy all the treasures of earth. Remember, I just read that, okay? And he deceived his brothers and sisters, deceived Cain and killed Abel, right? Deceived Eve, right? And he taught them the things that these gold and silver, the precious things of the earth, right? And as ye have these many years developed a system of money. So the gold and the silver really developed a system of gold and money, right? Which is based on these things which we believe are precious, right? Now, and that's why the commandments is very necessary and vital for our salvation and happiness. Due to all this, all the plans of the devil, then the gold and the silver turn into money, use it about a great army so the government continue power. And we be subjected to it, okay? Verse 9, for ye have used these things to form inequalities among you, and ye began to covet those things of your neighbor that ye do not possess, which things are not the things of God, and have nothing to do with your eternal salvation. Yeah, these things also have nothing to do with sustaining of your lives upon this earth. So you see, he's saying, for we now have got all these things, gold, silver, clothes, linen, power, whatever. Now we got all these things and we allow them to form inequalities among us, okay? Right? We begin, right, to covet the things that our neighbors have, right? The things that we don't even possess, right? Which are not things of God, right? And it don't have nothing to do with our salvation. Yeah, these things also have nothing to do with the sustaining of our lives upon this earth. Verse 10. For who among you can eat gold and silver and obtain nourishment from them, right? Again, for who among you can eat gold and silver and obtain nourishment from them, right? And can ye form them into raiment that can shield your flesh from the ill effects of the laws of nature? And who among you can find use for them in the construction of your houses in which ye live? Yeah, what use do these things have unto you except to deceive you and give unto you a means whereby ye might disobey the commandments of God? So you see what it's saying? So he said, for who among you, right, who can eat the gold and the silver, right? How can that gold and silver provide nourishment for one, right? Okay, and can you use that gold and silver to form a raiment, right, that can shield your flesh, right, from all of these ill effects of the laws of the nation? That gold and silver ain't gonna cover you for the laws of the nation, right? And also, who among you can find them to use for construction in your lives, right? In which you live. It can be used for the construction of your lives, right? And also, right, what use do the gold and silver have unto you, right? Except that they only deceive you and give you a false means, right? Whereby ye might disobey the commandments of God because you love the gold and silver more, the money, the mammon. Verse 11, behold, in the beginning I taught unto you the law of consecration, which is the law of the God, Lord, pertaining to all the children of God, and the means whereby all of us receive that we are in need of, according to our individual needs. And by this law we existed in peace and harmony with each other, having food and raiment and houses to satisfy the needs for all. And there were no poor or rich among us, for how can there be poor if there are no rich? And how can one man be considered rich if he has only that which he needed, like unto all those whose needs are filled? And what purpose would a man gain if he owned more than that which he needed to sustain his life? The only purpose would be so that he could consume the assets of that which he possessed on the pride of his heart. And it is this pride in his heart that allowed him to consider himself rich. Okay, so it's saying, right, behold, in the beginning, right, the Father taught the laws of consecration, right? God, right? So whereby, all of us receiving that what we in need of according to our own individual needs, right? And that is law, right? We existed in peace and harmony with one another. We did not have a need for food or raiment or house to satisfy the needs of all. We was all equally yoked. Okay, and also there was no poor or rich among them, right? Because how could there be poor if there were no rich, all right? And how could one man be considered rich if he only had the things that he need, right? Like unto also who needs are filled. Okay, they was already filled. And what purpose would a man gain if he owned more than what he needs to sustain his life? The only purpose would be so that man can consume the excess of that which he possessed it, right? From his heart, from the pride of his heart, right? And if the pride of his heart allows him to consider his own self rich. Okay? And the last verse, I'm going to stop with this. And when the pride of his heart had consumed him, and that he spent his days counting his gold, counting his abundance and thinking of ways in which he can increase this abundance, then doeth the light which entered his eye, causeth his whole body to be full of darkness. Yeah, the obscurity of the darkness within him overcometh any light that he once possessed. So you see that, right? So now, because he got all these things, right? Now he got it all. Now the pride of his heart is consuming him, right? Now he's spending all his days and nights counting all his possessions, all the gold, all the silver, all the clothes, all the money and everything, right? Now, because his pride is consuming him and he counting all his abundance, what happens? That light entering his eye is causing that light, that darkness light, right? That dark light, right? Because all that abundance and pride has entered in his eye. And what has happened? It has caused his whole body to be full of darkness, right? Now, the darkness within him overcometh any light that he once possessed. All right, you guys, so I'm going to end right now with verse 13. And I might start again with 13. That was very important, right? Okay, so end with verse 13 and pick up probably with 13 next week, right? So you guys just remember, what's important is how deep is one light or darkness, right? And what kind of light that person possesses. If that light be of darkness, how great if that darkness. But if that light be single one eye, then that light would be full of brightness. So it's up to you. You can either be dark or light. Pick and choose, right? But again, you cannot serve God or mammon. It's one and the other. So you can't be lukewarm. Again, the Father gonna spit you out. And that's why he made these commandments, right? Because it was important and vital to our salvation. Now you know. All right, happy Tuesday. Love you guys. Peace.